On this episode of the Unrivaled podcast, we welcome in world-renowned speaker and host of the Serendipity podcast, Mr. Inky Johnson. Inky, how you doing today?
I'm great, man. I'm great. It's an honor to be on, man. Thank you so much.
I'm going to start this podcast the same way that you start yours, and that's by, first off, thanking you for joining us on the Unrivaled podcast. Now, you speak in front of multiple different collegiate football programs, and you look those student athletes in the eye. The message that you have is always pinpointed to that specific program. We're talking ahead of time on August 19th as you get ready to speak to the team. What is your message?
You know, I'm going to take, the core values. I'm going to take what's important to Coach Franklin. We've had, a meeting and talked about a few things, but also, man, I'm going to take my life message, right? What happened to me personally and how I responded to it. I think oftentimes when we look at adversity, when we look at mindset, when we look at hard work, when we look at discipline, we speak to it and we use these phrases. Man, work hard, be dedicated, be committed, give everything you got, appreciate what you got. And oftentimes people don't understand why it's important, right? But when you look at a person like me and you see what happened to me, visibly you can see it, right? You can see my response to it. It's noted, you could see it. And oftentimes what I'm trying to share with guys is what helped me through the process of opposition, adversity, and challenges, and the reason I'm standing before you today, it wasn't my talent and skill set as a football player. It was my approach. It was my lifestyle. It was the way I lived. It was how I viewed things, how I approached things every single day. But it was a matter of showing up every single day, not taking this thing for granted, knowing that there was a bigger purpose and mission attached to it, and challenging myself to be great, right? Not just as a football player, challenging myself to be great as a man. I always say to guys, if you just want to be great in the game of football, you missed the boat. Right? If you just come out of this program and you're a great football player, you missed the boat, right? We're trying to come out and be great men. And everything we touch and everything we do, when they leave Penn State, a person should be able to look at them and say, that's a guy that went through that program, he's special, right? And so standing before them and reminding them of that message.
You mentioned Coach Franklin, and you just were in Penn State's team meeting for the first time, and you got to witness what he is all about as well as his program. What impresses you about Coach Franklin?
Man, just the intentionality. It's incredible, right? You walk through the building, you see the messaging on the wall, the quotes, right? He starts off the meeting with a quote, right? Guys speaking, right? Like how intentional he is about what he wants, the spirit, the culture. It's incredible, right? Because I believe in that. I was never the biggest, fastest, strongest athlete, but the thing that I had every single day was my intentionality of attitude, spirit, dedication, commitment, the things I can control every single day. And when I was sitting in that meeting, man, I got fired up. I had to come off the wall, you know what I'm saying? But it was incredible, man, just the spirit, the energy, the passion, but also they had fun, right? They kicked it off with fun. I didn't expect that, I'm gonna be honest. Right? I was sitting there, I'm like, man, they're about to go at it, and they kicked it off with fun, and then he went right into the work, and so it was incredible.
You know, so much of today's society gets caught up in the X's and O's and the pressure situations, right? But that word that you just mentioned right there, fun. Yeah. What is your message to the student athletes in that room to continue to make sure to have fun?
Absolutely, man. I think it's incredible when you can infuse fun into what you're doing, but also understanding what fun looks like, right? Because a lot of times people think fun is not being held accountable, right? Not being held to a certain standard, not having to raise the level of competition. People think that's not fun. That is fun, right? Winning is fun. Dedication, commitment is fun. Coming in every single day, knowing what you're working for is fun. And so not missing the message, not diminishing the message and thinking fun is just happy-go-lucky, but also understanding that fun is process. Fun is coming in, being detail-oriented. Fun is being great at what you do every single day and coming and putting forth a level of excellence. That's fun.
Perspective drives performance is another one of your messages that this program has fallen in love with throughout James Franklin's tenure. How do you make sure that you maintain that perspective through the highs and the lows?
Yeah, I think that's what perspective is, right? If you only maintain perspective through when things are going well, is it really perspective, right? If you only maintain perspective through the highs, is it really perspective? I think part of what makes perspective so important is can you keep and can you gain perspective in the midst of opposition and adversity, right? And so when I say perspective drives performance, what I'm speaking to is how you view what you do affects how you do what you do. What I'm speaking to is how you do anything is how you do everything, but you have to have the right perspective in order to approach things that way. And so that's what it means to me. Yeah.
I was just listening to something the other day that you said you're either in the midst of adversity, you're coming out of adversity, or you're headed into adversity.
Absolutely.
For the individuals that are on that practice field behind us, day in and day out through camp, how do you approach adversity?
Man, I think you approach it and you be grateful for it, right? Like I always used to say to my guys when I played with them, have gratitude in advance, right? Can you have gratitude in advance? And they would always say to me, how can I be grateful for something that hasn't happened yet? That's the whole essence of it, right? If you got the right spirit, right disposition, right attitude, before the adversity and opposition shows up, you're able to extract a lesson and you're able to share it and add value to any environment you go into and any person's life that you come in contact with. And so when I think about it, just the essence of it every single day, man, coming out, having the right spirit, right disposition to be prepared for the adversity, right? When you look at the game of sports, people think, oh, it's just a sport, right? Sports changed my life. And when you look at it, people say, man, are you bitter? Are you mad, right? I went to make a tackle and I found myself in the emergency room 2 hours later fighting for my life, right? But the thing that saved me was my preparation to a sport, how I approached it every single day, the mindset I cultivated, the spirit that I cultivated, my attitude the things that I could control, right? Through the vehicle of sports, being grateful for opposition. And so when this happened, as crazy as it sounds, already had the mindset to deal with it because I had been cultivating it from the time I was 7 until I was 20 years old. And so either you're in the midst of it, about to head into it, and so you better be prepared either way.
That kind of goes into what your latest guest on the Serendipity podcast and yourself were just talking about, Ramon Foster, one of your close friends, 11-year NFL vet for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that was mindset. I forget the exact quote. I want to make sure I get this right on the podcast right now. So it was one of the best quotes, I think, from that podcast specifically. But Ramon said, mental toughness is talent.
Yeah, it's talent.
Mental toughness is talent.
Yeah.
How do you embrace that?
Yeah, man. I think the way you embrace it is by looking at it a certain way. Like we look at talent in terms of ability, skill set, right? When we look at an individual, man, they have an extreme level of talent, whether they can run, jump, strong, whatever the case may be. And most people don't look at mental toughness as a talent. But when you look at mental toughness as a talent, I think you look at it more so from the perspective of every single day when you encounter that wall, when you encounter that ceiling, when you encounter that tough moment, you know if I can press forward, if I can press through it, this is a talent, right? You start to look at things differently. You cultivate the mentality differently. Ramon was a free agent, right? Ended up playing 11 years, longer than probably any other free agent that came out in his draft class, right? The guy went to the draft and got a nosebleed right before he was about to run the 40-yard dash. The week before that, his son had to have open heart surgery. He had to drive back from Indianapolis all the way back to Tennessee, right, to see his son. So it was adversity after adversity, right? And so when he says mental toughness is a talent, he was hitting wall after wall after wall, but that preparation and that level of adversity was able to sustain him to have an 11-year NFL career. And so because he looked at it as mental toughness is talent.
His son was just 4 months old, too, when he had to have open heart surgery. That was an incredible story from Ramon. But you talk about positive attitude.
Absolutely.
Ramon's about positive attitude. You're about positive attitude. This program is about positive attitude. It's one of their 4 core values. It's up on the wall everywhere. How can positive attitude change an individual?
I think it's everything. I think it's more important than talent. I think it's more important than facts. I think it's more important than skill set, because that's the one thing that you can truly control. Every single day, the one thing that we all can control in life is our attitude. We possess that, right? We can't control external factors. We can't control if something happens to us that we didn't want. We can't control if something goes wrong, if we go out on the field and get an injury. Sometimes we can't control that. But the one thing that we can control and play on every single day is the ability to have a positive attitude. And sometimes people think a positive attitude is Pollyanna. Oh man, I'm gonna just be positive. Oh, no, it's not that. Sometimes a positive attitude is when things don't go the way you want it to, acknowledge it for what it is, see it for what it is, but not worse than it is, and keep it pushing and keep growing and get better as a result of whatever situation that you come up against. And so I look at it in terms of it's the one thing that I truly have control over every single day. And so the one thing that I can control, I'm gonna do my best to control it.
Obviously, every single day is not sunshine and rainbows,
Absolutely.
as you've alluded to multiple times on your podcast.
Absolutely.
But when you have the positive attitude mindset, how do you personally go back to your foundation to make sure, hey, I got to center myself?
Absolutely. I think it's very important to challenge yourself. And so, like, one of the core values here, like positive attitude, you see it everywhere, every single place. I was walking around the building, I'm like, man, there it is again. But it leaves an impression on your mind when you see it, right? It reminds you. And I always say to people, right, more than anything, more than motivation, more than inspiration, people need to be reminded of what's important. And so for me, going back to center is just a reminder every single day of what's important. Every single day, situations, circumstances, stopping, challenging myself, challenging my thought process, challenging my perspective, how I see things, to make sure I'm being reminded of what's important. And I think when you constantly see things, right, messaging, right, positive attitude, certain things, work ethic, it's a constant reminder of what's important. And I think when you see somebody that underachieves, or when you see somebody that was killing it, crushing it, then they fall off the wagon a little bit, they just forgot what was important, right? They haven't been reminded in a while. And so when you're in this building and you're walking through and you're seeing certain things, but on a personal level, every single day stopping when you encounter things to make sure you're being reminded of what's important, I think is something that's extremely important.
You hit on two of the core values, positive attitude and work ethic.
Yeah.
The other two, compete
and sacrifice. Absolutely.
What does sacrifice mean in that context?
It's everything. Sacrifice carries over into every aspect of life. I'm a father, I have to sacrifice. I'm a husband, I have to sacrifice. As a teammate, I used to always say to guys, I'm not playing with you, I'm playing for you. That's a sacrifice, right? I'm willing to do things to put you in a better position to succeed. A lot of people look at the game of football and you can see a guy make a play and not even understand that, yeah, he made the tackle, but it was 2 or 3 more guys that did and handled their responsibility, and that's the reason he was able to make that tackle. They sacrificed to put him in the position to make that tackle. A lot of people that look at the game, they don't understand it that way. And I think when you got a team of guys that's willing to sacrifice for the other guy, you got something special, right? Like my injury on a personal level, that wasn't my guy that I hit and got injured that ended my career. I had my responsibility. My teammate busted. I was covering his back. I was sacrificing for him, and it ended my career. But if I went back at that same play, this exact same Saturday that's coming up, I wouldn't change a thing about it, because I told him I was going to give him everything I had. I told him if the situation arose, I was willing to sacrifice for him. My sacrifice wasn't dependent upon a situation or circumstance playing in my favor. My sacrifice was who I am as a person, how I play the game, how I live my life. It's something that you can extract from the game and carry over into any other area and aspect of your life to make you a decent human being.
What separates a good teammate from a great teammate?
I think sacrifice, of course, we just touched on it. But I think more than anything, when you look at that guy that you suit up with every single day and you go to work with every single day, you really care about him and you love him. Not just as a football player, as a person, as a man. I used to say to guys all the time, if you quit in the wind sprint, you stand no chance at life, and so I can't allow you to quit. Because one day you're going to be faced with things that's a lot greater than the game of football. And if you quit in the weight room, if you quit in the agility drills, if you quit on the wind sprint, if you don't give everything you got in the meeting, like, we stand no chance at life. My job as a teammate is preparation, and I expect you to do the same, because the strength of the pack is the wolf. The strength of the wolf is the pack. We're only as strong as our weakest link. And so I could think I'm doing something, but as a teammate, if I fall off, I need a guy that's coming behind me just as strong. And so we have to prepare each other and love each other enough to push each other and hold each other accountable and not take it personal and know that it's coming from a place of love.
How do you, if you're a guy in that locker room right now that's on the brink of trying to be a leader, you're afraid of calling somebody out. You're afraid of holding somebody accountable. How do you lead up versus calling out?
I think the way you lead up as opposed to calling out is lead by example. You know, I think oftentimes we think we have to say something. We think we have to speak up. But oftentimes if you lead with your actions, people respect you even more. That when you do say something, it's like, okay, I respect it. He's been showing it, right? I used to tell guys all the time, just lead, right? If you want to be respected, lead. Be at the front of the line. Do things the right way. Let your actions not betray your words. So when it is time to say something, don't be a guy that's just talking all the time. Because sooner or later, guys can become to a point where they're like, oh man, he's just saying stuff. But if you're leading by example, if your actions match your words, now when you say something, people are going to respect it and know that it's coming from a great place. But oftentimes what happens is guys say certain things and their actions doesn't match their words. And so when guys hear it, they don't take it serious, right? And so when you lead by example and then your words match, I think guys respect it even more.
Relationships are a key aspect to life.
Absolutely.
Good relationships and bad relationships, because you can learn from them, you can grow from them, right?
Absolutely.
For the individuals that are a part of this program and outside of this program, why are relationships important?
Relationships are everything, right? Like who you hang around is who you become. Who you run with determines the direction that you run, right? The people that you're with every single day, they shape and mold your life, literally, right? And for me, fortunately, I went through a situation with my injury, right? I had a brachial plexus avulsion. I ruptured the subclavian artery in my chest, almost took my life, ended up paralyzing my right arm and hand. I always look at that process, and I look at it like the process of elimination, right? Because for me, I went through a level of adversity and opposition to where it weeded people out in terms of a relationship standpoint, right? The people that thought I was gonna make it, right, and now my career ended, they fled. But the people that were really there for me as a person, they stayed. I had teammates that tied my shoes in my closet, right? I had teammates that came over every single day that put me in plastic bags because I had so many incisions on my body that I couldn't get wet. They would literally come and cut plastic bags and put them over my body so the incisions wouldn't get wet. Had teammates that came and took me to church, teammates that came and drove me to class, drove me to rehab for my arm, right? These were guys that wanted me to do well, right? And so I believe relationships are everything, man. They shape, they mold your life in every single way. I got relationships in every aspect of my life. Sports, fatherhood, being a husband, being a friend, being a speaker, right? It's everything.
You know, Journey Brown was a running back here at Penn State University, and he suffered a major heart condition last season that put him out of sports forever on the actual competition surface.
Wow.
As he continues that progress, year 1 to year 2, and so on and so forth,
Sure.
What's your advice to him for an individual that's gone through something similar?
I think my advice and insight to him would be to get around people every single day, man, that bring you that shot of motivation and inspiration and encouragement. Because for me, when I went through my process and my career ended, right, everybody was important in terms of who I encountered every single day. But the thing that I wanted to be cognizant of is the same spirit and energy that they were giving to me, I wanted to give that same spirit and energy to them. And so I didn't want people coming around me and just feeling sorry for me. I wanted when people left my presence, they felt as if, man, that guy's really handling that situation. That guy's really doing well. He's positive. You know, he's speaking life into the situation, and it's great. But for me, when I came into those environments and I had people that I encountered that did the same for me, that was just as important, and it helped shape my focus and my energy every single day when I went out to meet and greet the world with my different aspects and avenues and things that I had to get done.
As you challenge yourself every single day, what do the next 4 to 5 years look like for Inky Johnson?
Man, trying to be a better father every single day, a better husband every single day, right? Making sure that I'm becoming better in every aspect of life. I just want to be better, right? Challenging myself in everything I face, everything I come up against, the things I feel I've been called and commissioned to do, trying to grow and become better at them, right? So when I look back over my life, like I always say to myself every single Sunday, when it's all said and done, will you have said more than you've done? And so making sure that my actions and my words, they match, right? With the things I've been a part of, the things I'm connected to, but also the things I'm present with every single day. My number one goal, man, when it's all said and done, is not to just be remembered as an athlete, not to just be remembered as an orator. I want to be remembered as a great father, great husband, great friend, and great servant.
Let's end on this one.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Sundays, big time plays are made on Sundays on the
Yeah.
football field for some individuals.
Yeah.
Same can be said on Saturdays.
Right.
In the collegiate setting, NIL just became a prominent thing, name, image, and likeness. If you were an athlete
Shoo.
and you got to be a part of the NIL era, what would you do?
I would go to someone and ask them, can they teach me financial literacy? Because you got certain athletes in certain positions and they're making money, right? Which is great, right? They should, right? That's awesome. But I think also with anything, man, you need a process and you need a mindset that comes along with that. And so my only thought process with some of the young athletes that are getting deals, that are doing certain things, which I think is awesome, by the way. Just get attached to someone that can teach you financial literacy, so you don't just get it, you can figure out a way to keep it. It's almost like mindset, work ethic, dedication, and commitment. Don't just display it when you get what you want. Figure out how to keep it and sustain it.
Inky, appreciate your time. It's hot outside. We're in Happy Valley. This is Inky's first time in Happy Valley. What do you think about scenery behind you, by the way?
Beautiful. It's beautiful, man. It's amazing. It's awesome.
Inky, appreciate your time.